breakfast puppies?
This podcast contains adult language and content and is meant for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to the Glitterbois.
I want to talk house rules again if you got a few minutes.
I do. You know, I got all the time you need, NPC. let's put some polish on this.
So I've been mulling over this concept of the Palladium character stats, the 8 attributes. Now, I've always loved them because I started with them. That was how I started role-playing. And I like the fact that there's 8 of them instead of 6 of them because 8 is better than 6. And the stats, of course, go to higher numbers than D&D. They're like, oh, you got an 18. Well, I got a 30. Fuck you, kind of thing. My problem with the stats, I've had this problem off and on throughout the years that I've been playing. It keeps coming back in my head, keeps nagging me, is that the stats are ultimately pointless once you've used them, especially the low stats. They actually have no point whatsoever. Any stat that is below a 16, which if you're doing 3d6 down the line is going to be most of them, is pointless. It's simply there as an eyeball comparison. Only those that are 16 or higher, or depending upon which game you're playing, some of them start at 17, only those give you actual tangible bonuses, modifiers, affectations to the game that you're going to be playing.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I have all this real estate on my character sheet for these numbers that I'm never going to use.
Well, most systems tie some of that into saves as well. But in terms of like skill, yeah, I mean, there's nothing there.
So I was thinking Palladium, I mean, it's a skill heavy game, shitload of skills. Every game on the back of it has printed, 194 skills or something.
Yeah.
It's one of the eras, one of the hallmarks of the 90s was printing how many classes and skills there are in the game on the back of the book.
Yeah, that's true. Come to think of it.
Palladium's got a shitload of skills, but the only stat that ever affects your skills by default is intelligence, which adds like a piddling percentile bonus. So what if we got rid of all of the base skill percentages and instead base them directly on the stats? Your language skill would be based on your IQ. Your gymnastics abilities would be based on one of your physical attributes and that kind of stuff.
Would it still go up level wise or?
Yep.
Okay.
So we just use the stats as the foundation. Like, let's say if it's there's a few different approaches we could take. We could say it could be a combination of 3 stats or 2 stats. Or it could be a stat doubled, or if it's an advanced skill, it could just be the stat. Something like surgery, an advanced skill that you have to hone over time, could just be based on either your intelligence or your physical prowess or however you wanted to do it. But other things like gymnastics could be a combination of physical strength and physical prowess, whereas wrestling could be a combination of physical strength and physical endurance kind of stuff.
Yeah. And boxing could be all 3.
Yeah.
With a negative to physical beauty.
Yeah. Every time for every. It could be a random roll, right? Whatever your total boxing base ability is at the start of character creation, then you roll percentile. And if you get under that ability, you also get some kind of a disfigurement.
Dude, cauliflower ear is no joke.
Yeah.
That said, Mike Tyson fighting is one graceful motherfucker. So if you're attempting to charm that tavern maid, pick a fight first.
He's also a pretty funny guy. I love the comedy sketches I've seen him in.
I like it.
His portrayal of Herman Cain back in the day during the elections was amazing.
I've often tried to take a stab, and I actually just restarted it on redefining what stats should be. And I thought things like And I'm very sorry, Kevin, but I thought speed should be taken out as a stat. I also thought physical beauty should be taken out as a stat.
Yeah, I can agree on that.
I actually developed a set of stats, not like for a game I'm working on just a little while ago. And if with your permission, I'd like to read off what I think stats should be. You good with that?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Let's take this into a completely non-Palladium tangent.
Okay.
Love it.
Musculature.
Mm-hmm.
That's your analog for strength. Instead of agility, I'm going to go with deftness. How well you move, how plastic your brain is also.
Plastic.
Yeah. The deftness is not only quick-footed and agile, but it is also a certain mental agility as well. Are you deft? Are you clever? Are you capable?
You mean, I think maybe elastic?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the plasticity is another term for it.
Oh, you're right.
And then there's toughness. And those are your 3 physical stats. And then for your mentals, I was thinking willpower and, of course, just intelligence, your book learning and, your street smarts. But I wanted to add a third one, which was wit. How quick you are upstairs. Like that would be social encounters. That would be social graces. That would also be, what is my enemy doing? I can't see him, but that is a good place for you to move to. I wonder if he's over there now. It's just that native sense and that experience. And I thought that was a good thing to have. And then I only had 2 more. And that was instead of like physical beauty or charisma or anything like that, I thought a good place to put that would be in grace. Because there are ugly motherfuckers who are beautiful on the dance floor. And there are ugly motherfuckers who are beautiful when they fight. There are people out there who their very grace or their eloquence, both physical and mental, is what makes them exceptional. The last one's luck.
What?
You need to have luck? The last one's luck. Luck is a real thing, and you need to sacrifice whatever you want to it because it is a fickle mistress. But and those are the stats I've been working on.
What are you going to be doing with this system?
I have no idea yet. I just, I've played enough role-playing games now. I'm in my 40s, and I've probably played maybe 50 different discrete role-playing systems, even if it was only for a night. And I've never felt satisfied completely with one. So I'm going to take a shot at one and let other people be dissatisfied with that.
I think that's the way to go about it. I think if you have gotten to a point that you've read a lot of games and you haven't quite found something that's satisfying, and you're tired of being like, oh, I'm interested, I want to play something like this, and everybody's like, dude, you should just go play X, but X is really just nothing but the buzzword game of the week that Will Wheaton talked about or something. You're like, no, that still doesn't satisfy me. I think everybody needs to try their hand at coming up with their own system. It could end up being glorious. It could end up being an exercise in frustration, but trying your hand at like complete game design it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. So to tie it back in, what I'm doing is I'm taking all the house rules that I like from every system that I like.
Yeah.
And kind of tying it all back in together.
So there is a term that is adjacent to that. And you haven't reached that point yet, but I'm going to educate you on this term. And the term is called the Heartbreaker.
Oh, yeah. No, we've spoken of this before. Yeah.
The Heartbreaker is something similar to that, where somebody's like, I've got all of these things about this and I'm going to make my own version. The key defining points, however, of the Heartbreaker are, in addition to all of that, one of them is, I'm going to make it better. I'm going to take this game that someone else made and make it better. Like, it's the inability to identify that all you're really doing is just combining house rules, which you've already passed that point because you're already identified exactly what you're doing. And then there's the I don't know anything about game design at whatever, but I'm going to tell everyone that I've made the best game ever, despite not paying any attention to the last 40 years of game design. The reason they call it a Heartbreaker is because when that happens, usually you look at the game and you're like, that's one really cool concept that you actually have in there that you could build the whole thing about, that you know, like this one rule or something that you developed, like it's just like a stroke of genius, but the rest of it breaks my heart.
Yeah. And one thing I'm trying to be real conscious of is not to be too derivative of anything else, because there's a certain truth to everything's been done before.
Yeah.
But there's also a certain truth to, well, okay, now you're just stealing.
Well, first off, on a very basic level here, game mechanics cannot be copyrighted. So you can take whatever game mechanic you want. You can steal. You can and should steal heartily from everyone else, because if they've done it before and that works, you can take that as the foundation and be like, you know, I like the way that you did that, but I've got this idea that if we tweak it just this new way, it will create a whole new, if not refined, experience. And that's fine. Every game that I have developed has been inspired by another game. Hell, Hammer Crawl, none of that shit's original.
And Hammer Crawl is glorious.
And I come right out and say it. Like, even in the rules manual that I've been putting together for Hammer Crawl, I'm like, look, this rule system is highly derivative of a whole bunch of games which are better, which you should probably go play instead.
I'm sorry, I dragged us real far afield there. Back to Palladium.
I mean, whatever. That's what we do. We got to fill some time here because this whole episode is built upon one single quick idea, which I've already explained.
Yeah. There's a lot about Palladium that recommends itself. One of the problems I had is attempting to streamline what is in effect a fairly crunchy game. Like some of it didn't feel right. Like when we simplified combat rounds, that troubled me a little bit. I as a combat oriented character, like I need my 5 attacks. I need them.
I get it. Yeah. And we actually talked about that in one of our house rules episodes previously. The taking what you have and simply breaking it into 3 smaller rounds. So you have like micro rounds, or every round is actually 3 rounds kind of thing.
Yeah. I just, I suppose let's step back and just examine the concept of house rules. House rules they're an experiment. Like, you'll get an idea and then you'll put it in front of your group and you'll see if it works or not. And sometimes they do, and that's great. And that becomes something that you carry forward. But don't be too down on yourself if your house rule, if it doesn't, because it's an experiment. And sometimes you will transmute that lead into gold, and sometimes you will just be left with sludge. And that's just part of what you're doing when you deviate from the rules. Don't let other people get down on you for it either. Like, it's much harder to experiment than to bitch. Bitching is easy. Anyone can bitch. Anyone can complain and go, no, that was dumb. Taking a shot and trying something new is always harder. And do that. You should do that. That's one of the things that humans should do. And, you know, that's a grand statement, but, you know, in role-playing games, that's something you should do too. And it's harder there because, man, do the dreaded rule lawyers live here like in nowhere else in the cosmos? I mean,
and especially with Palladium games, I've encountered more rules lawyers with Palladium games than I have with old school D&D. Now, caveat: 5th edition D&D has some of the worst fucking rule lawyers I've ever met in my life or interacted with on the internet. Ugh, God, it just makes my blood boil.
Man, I've tried. I don't know if you can see it, but I have a whole like 20.
Oh yeah. All the 5e books?
Yeah. Well, a lot of them, not all of them, because they churn them out way too fast. But, you know, we tried it and then people donated some, and I'm just, man, I want to like it. I really do. But
yeah, it doesn't satisfy me.
No,
I'll just leave it at that. I don't
Yeah.
want to turn this into the bitching about D&D, but fuck, 5e just does not satisfy me.
Well, you know what's kind of more like Palladium? Second Ed. Second Ed feels very Palladium to me.
There was a time in my childhood where we were going back and forth between Palladium and Second Ed super easily. Like, I remember we even had our own conversion rules for it.
Yeah, I think the assumptions at the time of what a game was very similar when both of these were being written. So yeah, that's an easy step back and forth.
Yeah. Palladium is one of those games that is so easy to house rule. I don't know if anyone out there actually runs it without house rules. I don't think it's possible because there's so much left open-ended. There's so many spots where the GM has to make rulings that become house rules.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole unleash your imagination bit.
Exactly.
And that's been there from pretty much from the beginning. It's just there's a lot of space. There's a lot of info you can take and you can bring into your game, but there's always the permission. And that's one of the things I truly love about Palladium. There's always the permission to make it your own. And it's explicitly stated in most of the games.
The first time I ever took my pen to paper to write a role-playing game, it was really just me rewriting the Palladium system. I took the stats and renamed them. I think I made it 10 stats because 10 is a bigger number than 8, and you want more numbers. More numbers.
Gamers love bigger numbers.
But essentially, I just wrote my own hacked version of Palladium. I probably still have my old notebooks somewhere. I know I found some of my old character sheets from middle school. Like, holy fuck. That kind of blew my mind.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't imagine still holding on to all those things. Like I have my special characters folders, like the ones that mean something to me. But I mean, God, how many characters would you say you've played over the years?
Oh, dear God.
Hundreds, thousands. I mean,
I would say the number of characters that I have played over the year is not enough.
That's also a good answer. That is also correct.
But I haven't specifically held on to characters. I did hold on to a lot of my old world building notes from, or like, game campaign ideas. Because, one day I'm going to regurgitate this into something else. And through that ended up being stacks of characters shoved into the pages or finding old character sheets inside a game book that I've had since I was 12,
Yeah. It's fun because you pick up one of those and you're immediately transported to where you were then.
Yeah.
Like your assumptions come out on the character sheet fairly easily at the time.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It's nostalgia and it just hits you really hard. So, okay. Topic of house rules. What would you say, role-playing wise, is the first or the biggest early house rule that you incorporated in a game?
Honestly, it would be the semi-official stat roll change. 3d6 drop 1. We were doing that before it dropped the lowest. 4d6 drop 1.
Yeah.
We were doing that before it was officially sanctioned.
Yeah.
It became rule of thumb. Most people do that now, or at least have done it.
When for rolling stats, ours back at the time, we did 4d6, drop lowest, reroll 1s and 2s.
Yeah. Yeah. Some version of that was probably the very first house rule that I ever ran across.
And I think the one that always immediately followed was max your hit points at level 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because nobody wants to spend that much time making a character for them to die in the first room.
Yeah. I mean, the kobolds only hit for 3, but I mean, if you only have 4, that's a short adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. House rules are with us to stay, and as you were saying, you should be proud of what you should, not be afraid to do it. That's something that I've struggled with because I am a consummate tinkerer. I tinker. I do that in every game I run, constantly modifying and tweaking things, oftentimes based upon other people's complaints at the table. Like, oh, this thing, or, they'll jokingly make fun of something, but they might have meant it as like a one-off comment or, an inconsequential joke to the other people at the table. But as a GM, I hear it and it sticks with me. And then I ponder it and if not obsess over it and how to make it so that they never make that joke again.
Right.
Because to me, a joke about the way the game works is a complaint. And I don't want people complaining about when I run a game. I want everybody to have a positive experience. So even a minor negativity, I'm like, oh shit, well, I got to change that. I got to come up with a way to make that better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're also dealing with things like things that can't be fixed, like character death or severe failure, betrayals in party, stuff like that. But I like that your focus, like my focus myself, isn't for everyone to have a good time. When I do it, my focus is for everyone to have one they'll remember and an epic escape. You know, I want there to be struggle. I want there to be moments. I want them to feel that they have accomplished something, even in our little make-believe story.
Oh, I am totally on board with that. I want there to be adversity and accomplishment. I don't like it when people are complaining about the game. Like, the events of the game are something entirely different. But when they are complaining about, oh, this is stupid. These dice are stupid. The way this thing works is stupid. Or oh God, it's another Palladium thing. They do that one. Oh. I'm like, well, how do I make sure that we don't have that derision? Which is, most of my house rules are based upon mitigating derision. I
have never seen a role-playing game that I would consider perfect.
Oh, same.
There's no such thing. There will always be rough spots in anything. I've never even seen a video game that was perfect.
Horizon Zero Dawn. I will fight you.
No, it's a great game.
Control.
But it's not perfect.
Control was fucking perfect.
I'm gonna be a total backwards hat bro and say Halo is close to a perfect game.
The original?
Yeah,
fucking goddamn good game.
Bungie times, not 343.
Like the original Halo, Combat Evolved, fucking fantastic game.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just there's really there's going to be flaws everywhere, and that's where the DM or GM has to be, or the storyteller has to be quick on their feet, because like what you were saying, it's a problem, and those problems that happen, those derisive moments, they shake the immersion. That the person who's bitching is out of character. Then they're out of character. They're sitting back at the table. They're not leaning in. They're not hungry at the story.
Yeah. And
I mean, yeah, the smoothing over of the rough spots, that's part of your job if you're running it.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. House rules. Big fan.
Big fan. So yeah, stats as the basis for skills. Take them, turn them into something that is on your character sheet that is going to be used over and over again. I love it. That's something like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay does that, where you roll your base stats and then all of your abilities are based off those stats. It just kind of builds upward. I love it. I love it so much.
I have always wanted to see the massive combat of Warhammer done less wargamey, or even just more storytelling. And there's ways to do that with narrative play and stuff like that, but it's just not the same. I'd love for someone else to take a stab at that, though.
At Warhammer?
Yeah. Like I've tried different ones. I've tried War Machine. I've tried some of the other different, big tabletop battles, because those are freaking fun.
So are you looking for somebody to take a stab at the setting and role playing, or minis?
It's the incorporation of the giant war of armies battling, but bringing it more flavor and less numbers, being more RPG and less wargaming. I'd love to see, and I haven't seen it yet. I've seen some brilliant stabs at it, but I would love to see something that scratches the itch for both. This perfect amalgamation. It's my own personal unicorn. I doubt I'll ever find it, but
yeah,
because that's a hard one. I wouldn't even know where to start with that.
I tried that back in the day. I used to run Iron Kingdoms is the name of the setting, which at the time was a D20 setting for 3.5 edition. And Iron Kingdoms is Full Metal Fantasy. It's how it was billed. And Iron Kingdoms eventually spawned a minis game called War Machine, which then spawned another minis game called Hordes.
Both are still alive and kicking.
So alive and kicking. Well, I remember I built a campaign up to this point and had this planned out, this epic minis battle that was going to conclude a major chapter, and built out. I had I was starting to actually gather materials to build a set for this battle. Mm-hmm. And then the game fell apart.
And it's hard because like the buy-in for something like that, it's expensive,
mm-hmm. Well, I managed to not spend the money yet as I was gathering the components for the set. I wanted to make sure I could even build the set before I got the rather expensive privateer press fucking miniatures. But I was like, minis aren't going to be enough to pull off what I want to do. It needs to have, there needs to be dimension to it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really glad it ended when it did, because it saved me a lot of money.
I think the reason I really like the tabletop wargaming is because when it's well done, the immersion is almost complete. Like you're down there, you're looking at it, you can see it. You know what's happening because you can see it. And not see it in the mind's eye, but see it right there in front of you on the table. And I want to bring that to, I want role-playing games and that to coincide in a way that doesn't take 3 weeks to have a turn, which is going to be very hard.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed. Yep. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to talk to me about that, go ahead and hit me up in the Discord, because I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah. Well, that was our talk on house rules again.
I like these free forums because we get a lot of interesting places in them.
Yeah, I think these are where our ideas begin to come out, and we actually dig a little deeper into what makes us passionate about gaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On a side note here, we're on Microsoft Teams today. I'm looking into NPC's beautiful recording studio. And whenever you speak, I have you full screen, right? And your name's down in the bottom left. And whenever you speak, your light bar on the sound goes off under your name, and that's kind of cool.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, there it goes.
Cool. Yeah, I finally figured out how to get this camera doing its full 60 frames per second. So
yeah,
that's nifty.
Looking good there, buddy. Yeah, looking real good.
All right.
And on that note. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you have any ideas on any of the things we've talked about today, we would love to hear about it on the Discord. You can join us at Breakfast Puppies on the Discord, or you can stop by glitterbois.com, .org, .com, .net, .tv, .eu.
Just .com. Remember, it's BOIS.
Yes. And we would love to hear from you. We'd like to crowdsource information. The more people who chime in with ideas, the better our own ideas become. If you have an idea on how to bring tabletop wargaming and role-playing games together in an actual reasonable way, I'd love to hear about it. If you have a great way or a great set of house rules for Palladium, or honestly, any of the major systems out there, we would love to hear about it. New ideas, the melting pot of ideas on how to take a game and make it slightly better, they're beautiful things. And if you got something, we'd love to hear it.
And if you've done it before, share your story. But also, hop on in and join our book club for the month of February. We are doing Robotech Genesis by Jack McKinney. It is the first of the Robotech series of adaptations of the television show. I think it's kind of young adulty, but it's really good for what it is, which is an adaptation of an anime.
It is really good, honestly, especially when you get into the later ones where you're dealing with the Masters and the Invid invasion. Far superior to the cartoons.
Yeah. So pick up a copy on Amazon or from your local Goodwill, where it's probably super cheap. They probably got 30 of them. It's a good book. It's a short read. It's a slim book. It's about the size of one of those choose your own adventure novels from back in the day. Yeah.
About the same printing size.
You could probably finish it in a weekend, if not a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you. We'll see you next time.
See ya. You've been listening to The Glitterbois, a Palladium Books fan podcast. Glitterbois, Rifts, the Megaverse, and all other such topics are the property of Kevin Siembieda and Palladium Books. Please buy all their stuff and help keep them in print and making more games. You can order directly at palladiumbooks.com, and their entire catalog is available digitally at Drive-Thru RPG as well. Our opening music is 8-Bit Bass and Lead by Furby Guy from freesound.org. This closing music is Caravana by Philip Gross, available at freemusicarchive.org. All sound effects used are self-made or acquired via Creative Commons Zero license. If you like what you have heard, find us on Twitter and Facebook as The Glitterbois. That's BOIS. And check us out online at breakfastpuppies.com/glitterboys. And also join us on the Breakfast Puppies Network Discord at breakfastpuppies.com/discord. And if you want to help us out, please spread the word and help us build a community. Thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next time.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks again.
If you have any ideas on any of the strange myriad topics we've brought up tomorrow, we would love to hear your I can't speak. Let's try that again.